Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 892. Well, last week we did a profile of all the different needs for resources with many of the wildfires that are going on out in the West, and I spent that entire day making phone calls and trying to find out who needed hay and where it could be taken, and I'll tell you what, that led to some other developments. One of those developments was I got introduced to an NGO, a non-governmental organization called Ranch Aid, which I was not familiar with prior to that day, and then I got hooked up with the founder of Ranch Aid, Mr. Jonathan Cutler, and he is coming on the show today to talk about what they do to support farmers and ranchers in particular, people with livestock, when there is a natural disaster. It's pretty incredible what they are capable of. When he talks about what they did to support people after the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, it will blow your mind. And he's got some other surprises up his sleeve to talk about this great organization. They do rely on donations to function and to be able to do what they do. And so I am more than happy to profile them here today. And we're going to get started with that right now. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
You bet. Where in the world am I talking to you from today?
Do you know what? I'm actually in Kansas City. So some people say Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas, but we are definitely on the Kansas side.
You're on the Kansas side, okay. And is that where you call home, or where do you call home?
It is, yeah. So here at Overland Park, Kansas is where my home is.
Okay, very good.
And that's actually where the organization and everything is based out of.
Okay. Well, look, I'm eager to talk about Ranch Aid and to kind of tell the story and talk about what you do. And just to let everybody know, the way this came about is last week when I was trying to research and find out if people needed hay out in these wildfires out here in the West. As I was calling around, your name came up, and I got referred over to talk to you, and got introduced to you, and it turned into an interview. But I think it's important to profile what Ranch Aid does and all of that. Could we start off with you? Tell us about your history and your involvement with agriculture.
Yeah. So from a very, very young age, I have been around horses and cattle. So I grew up in Bozeman, Montana, and we were actually fortunate enough to be next to the largest Hereford ranch in the whole area, and that would be the Goldsteins. And so we got plenty of opportunities to go and to work cattle and to gather and certainly help with processing, doing all the different things necessary to get them ready to move pastures, just different things like that. So got pretty handy with a horse and a rope, or certainly being able to get in there and understand all the fine art of being a cowboy and different things. And then from there, we got quite a bit of land up into the Idaho, Utah, and Montana area, and so we had an opportunity to go and help gather cattle and just be very, very involved in a lot of the seed stock and different things as far as agricultural. And then went down to South America for a time and had spent some time in Hawaii. And everywhere I've gone, there has seemed to be an agricultural need to come in and to either help with some type of a disaster relief or do something where somebody needed help doctoring a cow or a horse or some type of an agricultural related animal. And so always had just kind of had that love. My grandfather, Rex, he was always one to make sure that we got in there and really genuinely appreciated what animals did for you and for the farm and for the ranch. And so I think it was just instilled from a very, very young age exactly what it is that, these animals do for us and make a living. And so that kind of set the foundation, and then went away to school, and then after that relocated from Utah and spent some time in Los Angeles, and then came back here to Kansas City. And this is where we ended up raising our children and family. And so I've been heavily involved with agricultural here as far as cattle and farming and kind of doing different things. And so we have been very blessed and fortunate to have access to quite a bit of ground and hay ground and just different things for in this area. And so when we noticed that a lot of our other producers and individuals in the business were struggling and dealing with drought conditions, and we had, hurricanes and had all kinds of those things. We actually were, putting together convoys just on our own to go down and basically take our excess hay and take it into these drought-stricken areas. And that's kind of where the whole thing kind of just started, the genesis. And then obviously from that juncture, we jumped in and have always been involved with the American Royal here locally. And as everybody knows, that is kind of just a phenomenal organization that supports kind of an agrarian lifestyle and from horses and shows and fairs and all the different things going on with that. And so that kind of was the first stepping stone to starting Ranch Aid.
Okay, wow, that is a lot. Now, before I dive into all of that, I've got to tell you that we're not doing this interview over Zoom. If we were doing this interview over Zoom, you would be looking at a flag from Montana State University right over my head right now.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Go Bobcat.
That's where I went to college, there in Bozeman. So where was the Goldstein Ranch? I don't remember where that is in relation.
So out toward Hitching Post Road. So if you actually just go back up toward the foothills, so it's just back out toward Goldstein Road. So it's kind of out that direction. So there's Goldstein Road, there's Hitching Post Road. So it's actually going to be,
is that south?
I guess directionally, it would actually be south.
South of town. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Towards Highlight Canyon in that area.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. Oh, there you go. Small world.
Yeah.
And then all this. So you talked about going to South America and Hawaii and said there was always something to do agriculturally, but was it agriculture that took you to those places, or was it a different profession?
No, different things. So when I went to Hawaii, that was kind of a unique situation. I was actually a ski instructor up at Deer Valley, and so was doing that in the wintertime, and then had a good friend of mine who had signed a contract to go and help unfortunate youth that have had some challenges in their life, and so they actually worked on the pineapple plantations there in Hawaii, and he had some medical issues, and so I ended up assuming his contract and went over there for a year to be a school teacher. And then what ended up happening is that there was quite a bit of cattle and horses that needed to be doctored and different things. So they would do all the kind of the beach rides and all that kind of stuff. And so several instances where there would just be a horse that would get away or, needed to be doctored. And so being able to kind of, basically step in and know what I'm doing and, kind of be in a position to feel very comfortable around large animals. And then from there, I actually was called on an LDS mission and for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and went and served a 2-year Mormon mission down in Santiago, Chile.
Oh, really?
And so was down there for 2 years. And so kind of the same thing. There was lots of animals that obviously needed attention and needed support and obviously service to kind of help them get along. And so that was kind of just something I've always had kind of a soft spot in my heart and just thankful to have had, I guess, the foundation from a very, very young age as far as being comfortable around large animals to know how to actually kind of work with them. I had a stint my senior year of high school where I went and worked with Doug Butler, and he's a very, very popular farrier, and he understands anatomy, physiology, and so he worked with me for a long time as far as just kind of doing those types of things. I, from a young age, understood how important the actual hoof is and making sure that everything is good, and so just kind of little snapshots that were very, very preparatory for being able to help others along my life.
Okay. Very cool, man. What a history. I took I took horse production at Montana State, and all I remember about the hoof is there's a frog in the hoof. That's all I remember.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about Ranch Aid. I mean, that is the emphasis of this interview. So, give us a snapshot of what Ranch Aid does today.
So, in short, we actually are an NGO, which is a non-government organization, and we actually have a private-public relationship with the government, as well as actually other organizations throughout the whole United States. We obviously go outside of the United States, but whenever there is any type of a disaster, then we are part of a group, a feeding group and kind of a logistical group that will come in and provide support, logistical support, as well as actually providing resources for those individuals that are needing just that. So they obviously have a need for food, for actual feed or hay, or sometimes it's medicines or just different things so they can actually maintain their herd. And of course, it's all done under the auspice of a true disaster. And so Ranch Aid kind of got on the map after we had gone to support the southern states when there was a drought going on. We were in a position where people took note of that, and a lot of people kind of found out about it. We were not doing that for any reason other than just being a good neighbor and supporting other producers.
Okay.
And so weren't expecting anything, and so there were some folks that when we got into these different towns with all this hay and distribution chains, they came out and were like, hey, we'd love to be in a position to support you, and this is just really great for you to do this. And a lot of times they just didn't have access to the product. And so because we've got strategic alliances around the whole United States, we've got hay banks that we are affiliated with and that we support and basically provide stuff for, then we have the ability to get trucking and kind of help those types of things, as well as actually the feed producers. So that's what led to our big kind of moment, was to go out and support all of the wildfires that had happened in western Kansas. And so we were fortunate enough to have over 50 semi-loads of hay and had a big convoy that went all the way from southern Missouri up into Kansas City, and then we made ourselves out west to these wildfires, and then working obviously in conjunction with the municipalities, working with all the different other NGOs that had responded. But that was kind of a turning point. We also did a lot with a kind of a strategic partner, Biogen Ag Systems, and they actually had a mobile feeding unit where they could actually grow feed in a sea container. And so we were able to utilize that extensively, because whenever you're dealing with fire and dehydration and animals that really just are suffering from very, very severe burns, the number one thing that you want to be able to do is obviously to hydrate. And so because we were able to give them fresh greens, so we actually were feeding them, alfalfa, we were feeding them barley. And so the great thing is that we were able to give both dry product as well as wet. And so we saw a lot of success and really kind of opened up a lot of eyes as far as best practices and kind of the ability to come in and to really be self-sustaining in an emergency. And so it was kind of a big moment. So that then led to an invitation to come back to Washington, D.C. and work with USDA and FEMA. And so we then became identified at that juncture as basically the large animal support and for all large animals throughout the United States. So whenever there's any type of a challenge or an issue or things, then we are given that kind of lead position, if you will, to go in and work with others and kind of be the tip of the spear. So
that is really interesting. I've got to ask you about the green feed. Is that some sort of a fodder system or something like that?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is phenomenal. And a gentleman by the name of Chad Schofield, he actually worked with myself in kind of putting that all together. And so that was how it was actually invented. And so it was very much perfected. And so we're able to take a semi-trailer and convert that into basically a mobile feeding unit. And then we also have feed containers, and that can be doing that. And so you've got, 60-foot units, 50, 40, 30s. And so you can go in, and then they're actually solar powered, and then they don't require any additional support other than just basically watering it. So the great thing about the seed is it's already imbued with its own ability to produce without soil, without any type of chemical, without anything. And so we're able to put together this fodder, and basically for those that aren't familiar with fodder, it's basically like getting microgreens or sprouts that you get from the grocery store, but it looks like a great big sheet of carpet. And so you get 7 days of growth on this without doing anything. It just grows. No lights, no dirt, anything. It just literally grows. And then you're in a position to take that tray out, and then you can just kind of cut it off in pieces. And that's how you would actually feed a herd in distress. We obviously have had situations where we come in and have worked with the U.S. Park Service, because they have got horses that, again, in some of the national parks that don't have the ability to get access to hay, and so we're able to kind of do some things with that, and obviously elk herds, and we've done buffalo herds. So we definitely kind of get out and do a lot more than just cattle and horses, the equine side of things. We jump in there and support the poultry industry as well, and so it's truly a labor of love, and it's not my main job. This is just a nonprofit that was started just by trying to help folks out, and it's kind of just grown from there.
That is fascinating, and I've got to ask you a follow-up question on that. So I understand. So logically it makes sense. You've got cattle that have been burnt, or other livestock. You've got horses, whatever it may be. Dehydration's a big deal, so you want to give them that fresh green because it's full of water. But one semi-trailer, how many cattle can you feed and keep fed out of one semi-trailer, or is it just a matter of it being a? The great thing is that it really just requires having your seed available, and then we put it in trays, and so we have the ability to feed for an entire week. We can get a herd of 300 plus fed and maximize their full potential, where they're actually getting a great source of protein, and so it's not a Band-Aid at all. It is a true, genuine feed system. And some people say, but feeding straight greens isn't good, and they're going to founder, and they're going to this, and they're going to that. The whole thing is that we're trying to introduce any type of basically product that they can fill up their stomachs, and then obviously if we have dry matter, that obviously is going to help with the digestion. And so we're introducing kind of a combination of both. But it's been really, really fascinating to just see when people kind of have a change in their idea as far as going, wow, we had no idea that this could work, or that it's possible, or that this is even something that's available. And so it has. It's been really kind of a neat situation, and so. Ironically, Mr. Schofield, he actually went ahead and kind of ran with that, and so he has been able to support not only here in the United States, where there has been a great need for basically greens and all kinds of just different things as far as cattle production and horses, that he's been able to make a company out of it, and is now doing that as a kind of a full-time company. Wow.
supporting that around the world.
That is amazing. Huh. Now this is an on the side thing for you, but it sounds unbelievably complex to me. It sounds like you're going, outside of the United States, or at least off the continent. I'm seeing here on your website, going down to Puerto Rico. How do you have time for this?
Well, the great thing is that I learned from a very early age that you have to surround around yourself with great people.
Yeah.
And so it's never really been about Jonathan Cutler or, what I can do. I'm really just kind of a person that doesn't care who gets credit, just as long as the work gets done. And so it's one of those things where we have individuals across the United States that are kind of strategic partners. And so that's how it works. We identify where there's a need. We then proceed from there as far as managing all the logistics. Mm-hmm. We certainly have learned a great deal through the process of exactly how to best serve others. And sometimes the local municipalities, they take care of it. So we're kind of what we call basically the safety net, that when things basically they've kind of reached their ending point where they don't have enough resources locally, then atypically that's where they'll reach out to us, and then we'll be in a position that we could actually backfill what it is specifically that they need, or kind of different things like that. So yes, it is. It basically just gets busy during obviously these natural disasters, mm-hmm. where there's a lot of different moving parts. But the one thing I am just so proud of our rural brothers and sisters and neighbors, we have got such a phenomenal group. And that's the one thing I can always count on, is it doesn't matter what part you play in the agrarian community, everybody always wants to help, as long as it's organized, as long as there's a focus, as long as all these things are kind of coming together. And the beauty of all of that is that I haven't ever been turned down. There's always been, and it's a cultural thing. The reality is that producers want to help other producers be successful, and they want to know that they've contributed. And sometimes a contribution is just coming and giving these folks a hug. Sometimes a contribution is just being there to, pass out food, or sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, we need somebody to feed in the evening there at the local fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. So, those are the things where I just have to tip my hat to the whole ag community, because they have been stellar, and it doesn't matter where I'm at. They always step up, and they always perform at the most that they can. And sometimes we have to tell them to go home, that, it's okay. You don't have to, fulfill all of these things. You can be a mile wide and an inch deep, and that's not really helping anybody. So we want people to be able to come in and to really give service, but then be in a position that they can go and take care of their own things, and then kind of go from there. So that's really just kind of been our mantra, is that there's a lot of people that want to help. We just help with the logistics, the organization, and getting people where they need to be at. And then obviously working with the municipalities, working with all the different, governmental organizations to best serve each one of these individuals, and then kind of go from there. So it's very gratifying that way.
That does sound gratifying. How does the partnership with the federal government work, and why are you in this public-private partnership?
Well, essentially, it really is just, as an NGO, you're a nonprofit. So essentially, what you have the ability to do is to come in and to react quickly with resources, and to kind of backfill things. And so a lot of times when bureaucracy comes in and they can't necessarily respond as quickly as maybe we can, then I think that's really where it comes in. Mm-hmm. And so we noticed that there was a huge need. Puerto Rico is a perfect example of that, where we literally had people on the ground before anybody.
Okay.
As far as the hurricane relief. We had already sent, jets in loaded with feed and hay. We had barges already on their way, shipping containers to get that there. And, again, we don't have to necessarily follow the exact same rules or ordinances or different things that are kind of going on. We can get in there and make a difference immediately.
Wow. So if somebody wants to request your assistance, can they come directly to Ranch Aid, or do they have to go through like a governmental intermediary?
No, they can actually just call me directly, or they can certainly go to our website, or they can contact me by email, just wherever. I think the biggest thing is what most people need to recognize is that we are a skeleton crew. We all have full-time jobs and families and careers. What we do is that we actually manage the logistics for a specific region. And if we can actually put you in contact with local resources or with local entities that would be best serving you, then that's what we're going to do. Okay. And so that's kind of the first thing. A lot of people say, well, I need, $10,000, or I need, $50,000 worth of feed, or I need, fuel, or I need this and that. We certainly will try to assist in any way that we can, but atypically, that's not what we do. We come in and really kind of backfill what the local support is and what they do.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Now,
yeah.
So the fires we're having out here in the West, the original reason you and I were put in touch. My first question, I'm just curious, have you been seeing smoke there in Kansas City?
We have not seen any smoke. Yeah, we haven't seen any bad air conditions or, anything that basically, would have breathing hazards or anything like that. I know up to the north, up in, obviously Colorado and Nebraska, they're actually seeing some of that residual that's actually coming across. But we've been very, very fortunate not to actually have any type of residual come down this far.
Yeah, I've been looking at the satellite maps, and you can see it trailing out across the Great Plains all the way up into the upper Midwest. So I just was curious about that. Okay, so when you and I spoke, I think it was a week ago tomorrow, about the wildfires and what was going on, and the people that I'd spoke with that said, yes, we do need assistance with hay and things like that. At that time, nobody had contacted you, but I was a little bit early on it. Has that changed? Have you been contacted other than by me?
Do you know what? We actually have a call every day at 5 o'clock with all of our strategic partners. And so on the call last night, they did not have anybody at this point that was actually needing anything. That could have changed in 24 hours where tonight we may actually get somebody who says, yep, we've actually, are losing our herd because we actually need hay in this particular location, or we've got some wild horses that are actually over here that need to actually, have some support. So those would be the things where we actually would be identified in that 5 o'clock call. So that 5 o'clock call is dealing with Hurricane Sally and then obviously all the wildfires. And so that is where we basically would get debriefed tonight and then kind of go from there. But to answer your question specifically, no, we haven't actually received any requests. Most of the requests, we are aware that they are being serviced locally by local associations or by other farmers and ranchers who are in a position where they can actually come in and provide that local support.
Well, I guess, in your side business here in the Ranch Aid business, sometimes it sounds like no news is probably good news. Meaning, folks, if they're not going all the way to you, maybe they're getting it handled.
Well, and I think that's where, if I go back to when we started in 2015, 2016. There has really been a renaissance. And I think with technology, with, the ability to communicate, obviously social media has played a huge part in that. But the great thing is that you're seeing a lot better communication. You're seeing people who are able to go out and to actually respond appropriately. We don't need people just rushing into a hurricane impacted area. We don't need people rushing in to a fire infected area, because now you've just clogged up all of the modes of transportation and the highways, and now where are you going to sleep, and what are you going to eat, and if you're taking resources away from first responders. So what we always say is that help us, contact us, we'll help stage you outside of the critical area. And then at that point, once we get the green light, then everybody can start to kind of move in strategically, and they can dump hay and feed and T-post and wire and, all the things, because, everybody wants to feel like that they are helping or supporting, but sometimes, it can actually be a disservice where, that's not necessarily the right thing to do. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you brought up that call tonight, and it shows you my perspective. I live in the West. I'm so focused on these fires in the West. I'm completely neglecting to think about the next hurricane that is coming on shore. So you guys are prepping and ramping up for that if you're needed.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So again, any type of incident. It could be an ice storm. It could be a severe snowstorm up into the Dakotas, certainly up into Montana. We responded last year to multiple Indian reservations that couldn't get access to feed for all of their livestock and horses, and so we were in a position to help facilitate that with trucking, as well as actually bringing in helicopters to kind of backfill or support things like that. So it really could be any type of an emergency or a natural disaster. So,
man, whatever logistics you've got set up are unbelievable to me. I'm hearing you talk about jets, helicopters, barges, freighters. That's some unbelievable logistics that you've got set up to be able to help people wherever they need it. Yeah.
Well, like I said, we've got some strategic partners throughout the whole United States. We've got some really, really phenomenal in-kind corporations and folks that this is fulfilling their mission. They just need somebody who's on the ground managing the logistics. They're willing to make the donations. They're willing to come in and be a part of that backfill and support, so that we can actually stand up. I genuinely can say this, that without these strategic partners and these individuals that are actually helping to manage all of these different, events, that we could not do what it is that we do. So I think that's kind of the best part, or the saving grace in this whole process is Ranch Aid is possible and basically does our best work when we have all of these corporations or all of these other NGOs, non-governmental organizations that contribute and so kind of come together. And I think the phraseology has been, it takes a village, and I would agree with that. It really, really does. It takes everybody contributing.
All right. Well, so I'm sure that there are people listening right now who are hearing this and their minds are blown, and they're very eager to just, to feel like part of this. How do people support you? Do you survive off of contributions or donations or something like that, or how do you keep the wheels turning in terms of your expenses?
Do you know what we do? So that's kind of the beauty is that when I said that we're a skeleton crew, we are. There basically is myself and two other individuals that kind of man the ship. And then we have our strategic partners, basically throughout the United States and into Canada and Mexico and different places. And so the beauty of all of this is that we do. Everything is basically supported through donations for individuals that want to contribute or to get involved and kind of do different things. We are not a large organization. We don't do big campaigns and galas and all that other fun stuff. We are very much about an event, and then we do the event, and then we get back to our regular lives, and And obviously, we're not taking monies from this for our personal lives. So none of us make a living off of any of this. That's not what this is for, and it never started that way. It never will be. This is just something that we're passionate about, and we think that we're pretty good at. And so we've been recognized for being able to manage large events and work with other strategic partners to fulfill that mission. And yes, it does take a significant amount of monies to be able to do what we do. And so any in-kind donations, we are a 501c3, and so we do accept those donations, and so we can have them facilitated and put together and talk with individuals as far as how they'd like to do that, or just whatever it is specifically that they would like to do.
Well, that's fantastic. If somebody listening, if they want to make a contribution, if they want to become a strategic partner or something like that, what's the best way for them to find you, learn more about you, and to contact you?
Yeah, the best way is to actually just by email. So my email address, first of all, my name is Jonathan Cutler, and that's Jonathan. Last name is Cutler, Cutler. And then my email address is the initial J, Cutler, at ranchaid.org. And you can either send me a text, or you can call me, or you can certainly go ahead and email me. And that's probably the best way to help facilitate and kind of get things coordinated to make those donations and put things together.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, I can't thank you enough for what you do, and for your whole team there. Tell them thanks from me here at the Off-Farm Income Podcast, and thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this with us. I hope it, I hope it has that trickle-down effect where it helps people who are in crisis with their livestock or whatever that may be at some point going forward in the future.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you very much. Appreciate everything that you do as far as getting the word out and certainly supporting the agrarian lifestyle. Very much appreciated.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here, and thank you to Jonathan Cutler for joining us on the show today. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.